Most people don't realize they are in history until it is history. Most people are not aware that their present actions create the actual memories they and their children shall live as history tomorrow. Peace and welcome to another hip hop study session. I am KRS-One. Today we are talking about hip hop and the concept of history as it pertains to hip hop. Here, we are exploring the deeper natures of both hip-hop and history in an effort to write an empowering hip-hop history of our own. We open our study with this thought because here we are discussing the writing of hip-hop's history, and to do so, we have to be conscious as to what history is, how it relates to us, and then what is it that we want our history to be. So during the 50th anniversary of hip hop on November 29th, 2023, which was also Hip Hop History Month, the Temple of Hip Hop, along with about 70 other serious hip hoppers, met at SOB's in New York for a special presentation on hip hop and its relation to history. This is how we opened our discussion. So today's discussion is on history. It's on hip hop and history. And it's Hip Hop History Month. So I thought this was fitting to give this specific talk on during Hip Hop History Month. It's important that we cause these type of histories, or should I say, we cause these type of events in our history. What you'll notice today, what we're going to talk about is being deliberate in history, being deliberate. Not waiting for somebody to tell you your history, but actually making your history, creating your history itself. We talk about it all the time, but we don't actually practice it. We just go through life and people tell you this happened, that happened, this happened, and you just adopt it and it becomes part of your story or not, or whatever it is. But when do you get a chance to deliberately create your memories? The memory you're going to have of yourself in the future is based on your present actions. Now, in the writing of history, I'm going to breeze through this because we'll be here maybe an hour and a half. Breeze through this real quick, but of course, you know, history is a whole subject. People take 8, 9 years studying history. We're going to breeze through it in like 15 minutes. Because actually we're approaching history and hip hop philosophically. And that's what speeds the process up. So actually I'll just get into it actually real quick. So what I did was I wrote this out and we say the Temple of Hip Hop is a sacred space in hip hop's perceived culture. When you think about hip hop, or if you think about it seriously, you can now include a temple in it. So 300 years from now, somebody looking back, what was hip hop? And they're gonna look at everything that mass media is saying that hip hop is. But then they're gonna say, nah, that was the commercial versions of hip hop. Where was the real culture at? They're going to know that 300 years from now. And they're going to look for the real culture. Where is it? It's going to be us. It's going to be us. Now, if you're conscious of that, you start acting a certain way in your present that's going to set up the memory of yourself in the future. This is heritage. This is the creation of it. The creation of history, the creation of lineage, the creation of heritage is based on your present actions. Whatever you do in the present is creating the memories you're going to have of yourself. Live a righteous life. It is here that we investigate the actual essence, the being, the identity, and the cause of hip-hop, beyond its entertainment value as a music genre. Here, we investigate the actual existence of hip-hop. As we have said now for many years, rap is something we do, while hip-hop is something we live. And it is the living of hip-hop that reveals its philosophical, spiritual, and cultural existences. Gospel of hip-hop. Our body of authentic hip-hop knowledge is obviously unique to our temple. What you're going to learn today is unique to what we teach. After many years of observation, experience, and study, our approach to hip-hop is what we know to be the truth regarding original hip-hop. This is what we know to be effective and empowering in real life for those practicing original hip-hop. This is why our temple exists. Now, this part is important to understand because everyone, any thinking person that's dealing with hip-hop is going to come up with a school of thought regarding hip-hop. And I'm always digging in books, documentaries, online discussions. People are coming up with all kinds of ideas on hip-hop, and there should be a place where you can deposit those ideas and collect them. Now, each individual will probably create their own place, but we are creating a temple of hip-hop to be able to collect these ideas. What did we think of ourselves? What was our vision of ourselves? We got to write that all down now. So like I said, the lecture is called Hip Hop in History. As the legend goes, Cool DJ Herc, at the request of his sister Cindy Campbell, who wanted to give a back-to-school party jam at the 1520 Community Center in the Bronx on August 11, 1973, begins his unique style of DJing. Notice the spellings here. Called the merry-go-round at this party. That was the name of Cool DJ Herc's playing the breaks. At this party. It was there at the 1520 Community Center in 1973 that Cool DJ Herc first began to perfect his merry-go-round DJ technique, which would focus upon the musical breaks of songs by James Brown, among others like Apache by the Incredible Bongo Band. It was at those early Cool Herc parties that the once independent talents of b-boys and b-girls, graffiti writers, MCs, and DJs would begin to come together, forming, over a 50-year period, the most influential urban culture in the world today, hip-hop. Now, this is the party line. This can be broken down in all kinds of ways. But in terms of writing hip-hop's history, or even establishing a history, we establish it with this story. And this is a story. As you can see, it says, as the legend goes. Now, legends are important. And the importance of a legend, or even myth, and folklore, is that it gives you a starting point. And what's the starting point? The starting point is the agreement that our past is going to look like this. I'll say it again. It is an agreement. What is your history? An agreement as though our past is going to look like this. Now, everybody, of course, don't agree. So you try to simplify the most common understanding of the subject you can find. That's what this is. Everything's in it. The year, the date, the music, Herc, Cindy, 1520 Sedgwick, it's all there. The question is it true? Let's move on. However, here we are more concerned with the essence, the causes. These are the key words. Keep hitting you with it. The essence, the causes, the identity, and again, the existence of hip hop itself than anyone's individual contributions to hip hop as a music genre. Notice the two spellings of hip hop. For us, it is knowledge of hip hop itself that is the real advantage. That's the biggest line of tonight. For us, it is knowledge of hip hop itself that is the real advantage. It is the cultural awareness of original hip hop that is the real empowerment. Respectfully, knowing the names and the biographies of popular rappers and DJs as the basis of your hip hop study is not how you become literate of hip hop culturally or historically. I'm sorry. There are many really informative books available that explain the biographies of popular rappers and DJs, as well as hip hop's memorable moments and events. These are just a few. Now, I want to put these specific books up because these are excellent in terms of finding out who did what when. We don't engage that study. We do. Like I showed you, our temple is about it's 26,000 square feet. So we will have, actually we have now, our icons are displayed throughout the temple of hip hop. But that's not the study. That's not the creation of history. Knowing the name of this one or what this one did, it's not knowledge. Now these books deal with that for us. If you need to know who did what, how they did it, what year they did it, what they did, so on. Chuck D, This Day in Rap and Hip Hop History, that is excellent. All types of dates and everything is in that book. The All Music Guide to Hip Hop, a definitive guide to rap and hip hop. And I love how they separate rap and hip hop. And in the book, they deal with it like that. Hip hop as culture, rap as the music genre. Ego Trip, Book of Rap List. This is an old one, a classic too, by the way. But they give you all the lists. The list of the first of this, the list of all the MCs that said that, or something, you know, to that extent. Here's Wild Style, excellent book by Charlie Ahern. It's a book about the movie Wild Style. And of course, every real hip hop scholar has already seen this movie. Born in the Bronx, this is Joe Conzo's work, photographer Joe Conzo. He also, I'm gonna be showing you some of his stuff, him and Jamel Shabazz's stuff as well. This is Born in the Bronx. Nice book, photos, as well as the information in it, breaks down hip hop completely. Back in the days, this is Jamel Shabazz's work. Two Latino brothers up here, actually Puerto Ricans in particular, styling out back in the days, original hip hop. I love this picture here as well because often, you know, at least only now in this generation, are we beginning to have a debate about the importance of Puerto Ricans and Latinos in hip hop. And it's important that we show this picture because Latino people, first of all, Puerto Ricans in particular, okay, you cannot discuss hip hop without Puerto Ricans. It is impossible. It is impossible. That's why this book is here, because we wanted to show this. This was huge in New York. Puerto Ricans dressed like this, breaking, rapping. Just don't start the names. And big up the Fables too, by the way. Absolutely. This is Jamel Shabazz's work. His book, this is Joe Conzo's work. But I put these books up, so if you want to know who did what, where did it go down? In these instances, it's like who was wearing what was the style. That's more has to do with MCs and DJs of the early day. That's graffiti back then. Then, of course, the movie Wild Style. Hip Hop and History. Notice his t-shirt. However, it is in one's study of hip hop itself that one finds lasting success as hip hop itself. Let me read that to you one more time. It is in one's study of hip hop itself, not anybody's contribution to it, hip hop itself, that one finds lasting success as hip hop itself. As we have also taught for many years as part of our I Am Hip Hop philosophy, we are not just doing hip hop, we are hip hop. And it is this being of hip hop that leads us into a deeper inquiry regarding hip-hop's metaphysical existence. Words like being, existence, cause, essence, these are metaphysical terms. These are terms that deal with the deeper essence of the subject you're actually dealing with. Our subject is hip-hop. Again, we're not talking about anyone's contribution to hip-hop or what somebody got out of hip-hop. We're talking about hip-hop. As we will learn in this lesson, hip-hop is not a material thing. It never enters the physical world. Hip-hop is first a shared idea, a behavior, a way to be. This is what hip-hop is. Not all of us participating in it, but the actual essence itself is an idea. Hip-hop never enters the material world. This way to be is what inspired our outward self-expressions of breaking, MCing, graffiti writing, DJing, and beatboxing. These artistic expressions inspired our original way to be. See, this is different today because you got people who are imitating hip-hop. And people who imitate hip-hop, we now have like a status that says who can imitate hip-hop the best. It's not who is hip-hop. It's who can imitate it, who can act like. This knowledge we're dealing with here deals with you as hip-hop itself. Not borrowing from somebody else, not imitating. No, realize that you are the culture that you are participating in. There's no difference. This is not a material thing like there's the podium and there's me. Here's the mic and here's me. It's hip-hop. You can't discuss hip-hop without me or me without it. It's my culture. It's my way to be. So these artistic expressions inspired our original way to be. Also came with unique clothing and hairstyles, a unique urban dialect, a unique urban body of street knowledge, and even a way to trade, market, and sell such expressions as new art forms. This is all hip-hop. This is what happened. This is Breaking, Breeze team. We out in Central Park. You got manners. That's J-Day on his head. This is me and Snoop in a freestyle. And what I'm trying to show here, let me go back. This is fashion. This is breaking. This is MCing. This is graffiti art. This is on 2nd Avenue and 3rd Street in Manhattan. The artist got down with that. I was like, wow, he put the scars in my face too. It was nice. This is DJing. I'm going through the elements. This is me and Dougie Fresh. I just saw him last night too at Red Alert's function. Dougie Fresh, beatboxing, representing beatboxing and so on. Again, breakers. This is somewhere in another country, but these are some B-boys, B-girls. They got down for this in the show. This is Jamel Shabazz's work. Very important for hip-hop's history. I always shout Jamel Shabazz. His work is around too. He does galleries, all types of exhibits and stuff. But the books, and if you are trying to document the history, hip-hop's history is not just written, it's also photographs. In a class, you could talk a lot about this. You could just put this photograph up and start talking about his glasses, that coat he's wearing, the jacket he's wearing, the way they rocking their sneakers, the pants, all of this. This dude kissing this girl right here. All of this can tell you something about the times. These dudes right here, that bomber jacket has a whole history with it. To be able to wear that and walk around, you had to be somebody. But if you're not culturally literate, this just looks like a picture. This looks like a regular picture, so on. This is me and Red Alert. Big up to Red Alert. Was with him last night, celebrating his 40th anniversary on radio. 40 years on the radio, crazy. But that's Red Alert there, me, younger me, obviously, and we're doing our thing. These are, I'm just going through these forms. The repetition of our way to be, as well as the works produced by our way to be, is what forms our culture. Our hip-hop culture is not formed by a landmass or by a race of people. Our hip-hop culture is formed by our specific expressions of breaking, MCing, graffiti art, DJing, beatboxing, street fashion, street language, street knowledge, and street trade, or rather street entrepreneurialism. This is just some breaking, some MCing, and some graffiti art. And by the way, too, these type of lectures I give at universities where people know absolutely nothing. Wow is the question. No, absolutely nothing. So I have to actually ask sometimes, where are we? Have you guys heard Rappers Delight? Have you guys heard of this? How far back do you go? And you got to actually ask. And so this is part of that as well, that I want to show you visuals of what it is that I'm talking about here. This is called hip hop. That's Tony Tone. Check out the sheepskins. Oh yes, look at each one of these is a story to tell. Each one of these can be further explained. I'm showing it to you in terms of what is our subject, the writing of hip hop's history. Well, this is hip hop's history. And based on how you explain that, explains the culture. Not who sold a record or how many times you play on the radio or what movie you did. No. Before we get to that, let's discuss hip hop for what it is, what it looks like. These cultural elements originate from all over the United States and the world, not just from the Bronx. And it is these combined elements that make up our cultural way to be. Here's the elements: breaking or break dancing. Notice the spelling too. MCing, rap, graffiti art, aerosol art, spray can art, DJing, cutting, mixing, and scratching recorded materials. These are called the core four elements. Now look at this. Breaking, commonly known as break dancing. MCing, rap, there's graffiti art, DJing, cutting, mixing, scratching. These are not slang words. These are new words in the English language. The G is not missing. This is how you say this. In fact, you say DJing, cutting, mixing, scratching like you would say violin or Berlin or penicillin or any of the N's. You can say DJing, cutting, because, and keep this in mind, that when you're writing history, it's important that you use your own terms. Because if in fact you're using someone else's terms, then you got to go into the history of those terms. So be careful when writing hip hop's history in English language, because every piece of the language you got to break down each word to make sure that it matches your culture. Your culture is not English. Your actual culture is coming through English language. And English language is coloring your culture with its culture. So you got to be careful when you're trying to explain your own culture in the language you've been forced to know. It's called assimilation. That's why we know English. These are not slang words. These are new words in the English language. And when you create new words in a language, you create new realities. So these are the words that describe our reality. Breaking, MCing, graffiti art, DJing. Originally, hip-hop's elements were practiced by Zulu Nation as breaking, MCing, graffiti art, DJing, knowledge, and overstanding. That was the original codification for hip-hop. Breaking, like the name of what we're doing in world history. Breaking, MCing, and look how they spelled it. Graffiti art, DJing, knowledge, and overstanding. But as we developed and became more organized, the actual functioning of hip hop as culture and as community revealed 5 more cultural elements, and we just saw that. Street fashion, our clothing, beauty and cultural styles. Street language, our coded dialect. Street knowledge, urban ancestral wisdom. Street entrepreneurialism, hip-hop business management. You'll notice at a lot of these hip-hop exhibits and museums, you can always tell, as curators, you can always tell a fake hip-hop museum or exhibit when they don't include the managers of the artists they show. Because anyone who is part of the culture of hip-hop, not the commercial part of it, but if you're part of the culture of hip-hop, you know that Rakim comes with Mac. You know that Slick Rick come with Mandy. You know what it is. You know KRS come with Simone. Where's Simone at? Yeah. Okay, you know what it is. If you know the culture, if you're just dealing with, even me as an example, if you're just dealing with my commercial persona, then you're going to start with criminal minded, by all means necessary, and then he can stop the violence, and da. All records, all videos, all entertainment. Nothing about the people who are around me. Nothing about the nothing. It's just me there. That's fake. Or I would put it this way, that's rap. That's not hip hop. That's rap. Now if you're discussing hip hop, the name of our culture, well then you know my daughter, you know my wife, you know my father, you know my mother. You know when you see Dougie, you see his father. Dougie Fresh. So the idea of hip-hop business management is very important because hip-hop also on another level, not just about the managers and like the journalists, managers, music executives, the people that like work at these places like BET and Viacom and so on. These are real hip-hoppers. These are real people. They never get any mention anywhere, nowhere. It's just, boom, this one. We just started talking about Cindy when we mentioned her. For years it was cool her, no mention of Cindy. Or Timmy Tim, or Coke Rock, Pebbly Pooh, any of them. Only now the light's starting to shine. Why? Because we're discussing culture. And more people are interested in what's going on around you. Not just you. What's going on around you? That's the culture. Take a look at these 9 elements. This is what hip hop is actually doing in the world. And if you can approach hip hop like this is what you're going to be doing in the world. Each one of these elements are billion-dollar industries, each one of them. Master any of hip hop's elements, you ain't gonna have a problem with no money. This is straight up. The key word though is mastery. The mastery of breaking now can have you at the Olympics. Imagine that. The mastery of, you got to be nice with it though. You can't just be the weekend dude. No, you gotta want to be him. And guaranteed. See, and look at this real quick, because universities can't even guarantee this to their students. That when you study this subject, you actually gonna eat from what you study. This is the problem with universities today. This is their issue. They're selling kids, they're selling students knowledge that's worthless. It's knowledge, but it's worthless. There's no value to it. It don't make you more valuable, and you don't get no more money from it. That's not the case with hip hop. You master any one of these, and God forbid you master all of them. This right here? No, you'll be constantly called for this or that, or invited here and there, and so on. Master these 9 elements. This is the good life, as philosophers say. Hip hop and history. This cultural way to be gives different people from around the world and across class, age, and gender distinctions a social and intellectual environment to meet, identify one another, and share ideas. That's what hip hop does, internationally. Beyond music and dance, hip hop itself is an urban way to be, think, and act. And this urban way to be, think, and act creates an environment, even a reality, manifested by those of like mind. Again, hip hop is a shared idea, a way to be. And the more we think about hip hop, the more real it becomes in the physical world. Think about this for a minute. This thing we call hip hop never entered the physical world. It's not here. Hip hop is not here. It's not in 3D. Hip hop is an idea. And I don't want to, I'm speaking publicly, so I probably shouldn't say this. I'm going to say it. Anyone who controls ideas controls time, space, and humanity itself. Think about this. You control ideas. This is why hip hop is powerful, because it could take this. It could take anything and make it $1 billion right here, just right there, billion, or global recognition right here. International popularity right there. Hip hop takes the worthless stuff and makes it valuable. What justice is that for poor people? The universe is alive and well. Look at the justice. You talk about an answered prayer? For poor people, the last thing that Dr. King wanted, he said his last hill of hope was an economic program. Economics. Dr. King wanted to eliminate poverty as his last hill of hope. Here comes hip hop with the way to eliminate poverty. I mean, eliminate it, not deal with it. If you can change any material thing into what you perceive it to be, you ain't got no problems. You ain't got no problems. Even when the evil is coming to you, you say, no, that's good, and we're going to use it for good and watch it be good. Whoa! How do you do that? You just do it. But see, again, you're right. You just do it. But see, that's the talk of the gods. That's the talk of the gods. I would just do it. To the average person, what did you do? That was a miracle. No, not to the gods. Now, I'll get back to that. Stay here. Stay here with hip hop as an idea and way to be. This is the empowerment. This is where you become empowered by hip hop. You don't have to look at a video. Be the culture itself. And you'll create something beyond videos. Listen to this. However, recording the history of a way to be, as well as the expressions of that way to be, leads us to investigate the actual essence, there's these words again, being, identity, and cause of hip-hop beyond its entertainment value. As mentioned earlier, it is here that we investigate the actual existence of hip-hop. This begins with its name. Now, this is what I'm talking about in terms of real empowerment, real empowerment. Hip-hop, start with its name, hip-hop. Okay, see that? Now, keep this in mind. You see those letters, H-I-P, H-O-P, okay? Now, I know they look like hip and hop, right? This looks like hip and hop. But that H, and then that I, that P, and the O, those are ancient symbols. Ancient. The symbols that are being used by English language is not English. Let me say that again. The symbols, which is what this is, what these things are, this. These are not just letters, they are symbols. The English language has 26 of these symbols. But the English language did not create those symbols. These symbols mean something totally different than what they're being portrayed as now. However, when you put these symbols together, they form things. Hip hop, the hip hop. Not as a word, but as a sound. Hip hop. This thing. Hop. Or hip hop. That thing. The sound. Words have meanings. Sounds have intentions. Words have definitions, meanings. But the sound of the word is the word's intent. So you want to be clear with the sound of your culture and the intent that it's given off. It's the only way we're going to write the history. Hip-hop is the name of our unique self-expression in the world. Did you get it? You see I'm underlining the word name? Hip-hop is the name of our unique self-expression in the world. Hip-hop as a word, not a sound yet, but as a word, is specific in the fact that it identifies us and only us. This is important. This word identifies us in the world. And it only identifies us. Understand that. Words like African identifies a lot of different people. Asian, a lot of different people. European, a lot of different people. Hip-hop, one people. You can't say hip-hop is something else. When you say that sound, hip-hop in the world, people think something. When you say hip-hop, they don't think rock as a music genre. They don't think China as a country. They don't think anything. When you say the sound, hip-hop, you see breaking, you see graffiti art, you see somebody rapping, you see DJs, all in your mind. Hip-hop, this sound and this word, we'll deal with the word first. This word only pertains to us. It is unique to us. That makes this word sacred to us. Nobody else got that. Nobody. You denigrate this, you desecrate your own self, your culture. You lift this up, you lifted yourself up. You lifted your name up. When you lift your name up, you lift yourself up. Graffiti writers taught us that. We broke in the street with nothing. But let me get my name up. Because if everybody can see my name and see my art, my value goes up. Even though it's totally illegal, I'm on this wall right now. But that's not the point. The point is you're going to see me. And I'm going to exist. Where just last week I didn't exist. You couldn't see me. Not only does our name, hip-hop, identify us specifically, it also identifies what we are doing. This means that hip-hop is both a verb as well as a proper noun. As we have said now for many years, we are not just doing hip-hop, we are hip-hop. Again, hip-hop is the name of our cultural way to be. It is the name of our community and the term by which we are identified with in world history. Therefore, as a name, as the name of our unique community, the word hip-hop should be treated as a proper noun or proper name, spelled with 2 uppercase H's, hip-hop. Unless you are producing an art piece or you are writing in a language where the grammatic rules of the English language do not apply, hip hop should be spelled with 2 uppercase H's as hip hop. But there are other spellings as well that identify hip hop's observable nature. Now stop here for a minute. Journalists, writers, authors, people who write, that's the name of our culture. We shouldn't be spelling it in lowercase. Most of the dictionaries, I'm going to show you some later on, and writers, I don't understand this. How we know that all cultures, communities, names of nations, names of companies, they're spelled in uppercase. Specific things are spelled in uppercase. They're called proper nouns. But when it comes to hip hop, we're always spelled in lowercase. Lowercase H-I-P dash or space, lowercase H-O-P. And that's in the dictionary. Then they call us a culture and spell our culture in lowercase. No culture is supposed to be spelled in lowercase. It's a disrespect to the culture. So we advocate for hip hop to be spelled in uppercase H. It's the name of our culture. The correct spelling of hip hop is that. 3 natures of hip hop. Hip hop, hip hop, hip hop. Notice the spellings. Hip hop. That, when we spell hip hop like this as one word, it looks like high-fop. But that word hip hop is collective consciousness, awareness, way to be. It is a shared idea. That's the name of the shared idea. Hip hop as consciousness is spelled as one word, capital H, lowercase I-P, H-O-P. That's hip hop as the idea. Hip hop, spelled in this way, is the culture and lifestyle. It's the name of our culture and lifestyle. It's our arts, sciences, institutions, traditions. It is the proper name of our community. Hip hop, lowercase, commerce, rap music, and urban dance, as well as its related products. It is hip hop, notice the uppercase, as a music or dance genre. So when you're speaking of hip hop as music and dance, you spell it in lowercase. And again, I don't know why people do that, because they spell jazz in lowercase, gospel gets lowercase, R&B gets, I don't understand why you would spell a specific thing in lowercase like that. It's such a disrespect to the specific thing. But we see that most of the people that spell hip hop in lowercase are dealing with rap, are dealing with entertainment. That's what they're dealing with. So it matches, this model matches what hip hop actually looks like in the real world. The top is consciousness. Second is the name of the culture. The bottom is the reference, the name of our activity as a commercial venture. You'll notice that when the collective consciousness and the culture is marketed or packaged, it becomes lowercase hip hop. And these are not bad, wrong, none is better than the other one. These are just the forms in which hip hop takes in the real world. And these are their proper spellings. Here's the Hip Hop Dictionary. Hip hop, yeah, there is a book called The Hip Hop Dictionary by Alonzo Westbrook. And he defines hip hop, look how he's spelling it though. The artistic response to oppression. I love that line. This is one of the only books that I ever saw that actually explained hip hop the way it really is. The artistic response to oppression. And in lowercase, it's rap. Even though rap is the biggest voice that is the voice that hip hop has, graffiti writers also stood up against oppression. Breakers as well, DJs as well, beatboxers as well. But if you spell hip hop like this, you're dealing with our entertainment aspect. So it does still work. The artistic response to oppression, a way of expression in dance, music, word, song, a culture that thrives on creativity and nostalgia. As a musical art form, it is stories of inner city life, often with a message spoken over beats of music. The culture, see, notice I keep saying culture, but we're in lowercase, includes rap and any other venture spawned from the hip hop style and culture. Now look at this last line. The culture includes rap. Very important. And any other venture spawned from the hip hop style and culture. This is the Oxford English Dictionary. Here, the Oxford English Dictionary was began by Dr. James A. Murray and Dr. William Minor sometime around the mid-1800s. It was completed after their deaths on January. It was completed after their deaths on January 1st, 1928, some 70 years after it was first conceived. This part here, I just paused here real quick because there's a movie called The Professor and the Madman. See the actors, Sean Penn and Mel Gibson. They did a movie about these two guys. Dr. James A. Murray was an autodidactic professor. I mean, he taught himself. Never really went to college. And he wrote the Oxford English Dictionary, just as a thought. He taught himself, he was the lead editor. He's the one that conceived the concept of the Oxford English Dictionary. And he ran into a guy named Dr. William Minor, who was in a psychiatric ward. He was a schizophrenic. He was a doctor, but he was running around. He felt as though a man wanted to kill him. So he chased this dude down thinking he was the dude in his head and killed the dude. And then realized he wasn't the dude and he was bugging. So he went to the crazy house. And in the crazy house, they wrote the Oxford English Dictionary. No, you didn't hear me. Okay. Let's just keep going. So I give you this little piece because the Oxford English Dictionary, we turn to the Oxford English Dictionary because it not only gives us the original definitions to English words, but it also gives us the etymologies of those words. It gives us the history of the word. That's why we're looking at the Oxford English Dictionary. When you want to know English or get into English words, the authority on that is Oxford English. This is the compact edition of the Oxford English. It's a 2-volume set book. The words are microscopic. You need they give you a magnifying glass to look at the words there in this dictionary. The original set, or the Oxford English set, is a 20-volume set of the same size books, but you could just open it and read it. They condensed all 20 of those books down to these 2, so you need a magnifying glass to do that. We're going to be looking at that, one of which is right here. Hip hop. Hip, verb, hop, verb, or reduplication of hop, with alterations of lighter and heavier vowel, confer, that CF means confer, to drip, drop, tip, top, dib, with hopping movement with successive hops. Now what's interesting here is this part here, okay? George Villers. When does the word hip hop come into English language? 1672. That's when this word starts getting talked about, more popular. It starts with George Villers, who was a real dude, actually. George Villers was, he was the second Duke of Buckingham for England. He was part of Parliament at the time, 1672, and he got kicked out of Parliament for corruption, common practice back then. He got kicked out, and there was a play that was done on him. It was news. Back then, people would do theater plays when something big went down in government or in church. The common dudes would do a play, and that would be the news. So this is where hip-hop actually, the word hip-hop comes into English language. Look at the bottom. Now this here, let me go back, sorry. This piece here, right? This is the etymology of the word hip hop. All of this explanation with the year. When did it first come in? Well, it was George Villers, second Duke of Buckingham, rehearsal for the play. Here's what was said. To go off hip hop upon this occasion is 1,000 times better than any conclusion in the world. I gad, end quote. I gad means to wander off with no aim. And so look at this. The first time hip hop is mentioned in the English language, it's the best conclusion in the world. Look at this. This ain't coincidence. Well, if you're scientific in that sense, yes, this is a coincidence. If you're spiritual, this is not a coincidence. That to go off. Now, if some of you remember Spoonie G, from the south to the west, to the east, to the north, come on, Spoonie G, go off, go off. To go off, hip hop, those words actually go together in our culture. But in 1672, the spirit doesn't know time. Okay, let's keep going. So this is the etymology when hip hop comes into the English language. 1672, George Villiers as part of a play. This is the new shorter Oxford English Dictionary. This is a weird story, but I'm not going to get into it now. The Oxford is missing words. It was supposed to write down the whole English language. It's missing words. Words like African is not in the Oxford English Dictionary. So they had to come out with something called a new shorter Oxford that put all these other words in that they forgot to put into the original Oxford. So they went with this. Now I use this because now this is more modern. This is modern now. And here's now hip hop as a noun. Remember in Oxford English, when hip hop first comes into the English language, it's a verb. When it becomes the name of our culture, it becomes a noun, and Oxford English documented this. Hip hop, originally US, also hip hop. Reduplication of hip. You see, before we was the reduplication of hop, see? Reduplication of hop. Now, we are the reduplication of hip, which is very important. Used as a jingling refrain, convert to hip, bebop, hop. The music, see how they get you right here? Music associated with a young people's subculture of Black and Hispanic origin, comprising rap music, graffiti art, breakdancing, a distinctive style of dress, etc. Now they went through all that culture, but still spelling us in lowercase. Hip hop, a popular urban youth culture, closely associated with rap music. This is a different dictionary, the American Heritage Dictionary. The two dictionaries I just used is Britain. That's British knowledge, British information. We started there because English language comes out of Britain. And if you go to Britain and say you speak in English, they will quickly correct you. They say, no, you speak in American. You're not speaking English. So we went to English, Oxford English. We looked at two definitions there out of two Oxford English dictionaries. Now we're in America. The American Heritage Dictionary, which, by the way, is, I think, it's not a better dictionary than the Oxford, but it's right up there with it. Because the American Heritage Dictionary, in the back, it deals with the sounds. It gives you the definitions of the sound, the intentions of the sounds. Oxford doesn't do that. American Heritage does. Here's the definition of hip hop in American Heritage. A popular urban youth culture closely associated with rap music and with the style and fashions of African American inner city residents. No Latinos in this one. Rap music of or characteristics of hip hop culture. Look how you spell it. Okay? This is now back to Britain, the Oxford Dictionary of New Words. This is when hip hop was added to the Oxford Dictionary correctly, but they still spelt it wrong. A street subculture. This is British, and wait a minute, let me stop here for a minute. The reason we're looking at British information is because whenever you're discussing your culture or yourself, the first thing you want to do, especially if you're talking to an audience, the first thing you want to do is come from an objective approach. Western man is all about, or Western civilization is all about the objective approach. Subjectivity is frowned upon. Like for me to tell you what I know, you're not supposed to believe me. I'm supposed to be less authentic if I just tell you what I know. No, you gotta come with all of this and show your sources and go through all of that. So when you're teaching in the public, you start objectively. Now, I don't believe in any of this stuff, okay? I am the culture that they're talking about, okay? So it's good, though. It's like holding a mirror up to yourself. It's good to see what others think about you. Because once you can see what others think about you and see how you really look to other people, you can communicate with them better. You don't speak your language to someone you don't know. You speak their language. Americans have a problem with this, especially in other countries. You know, so many times I see Americans in other countries, like we in France somewhere, and you see Americans going, "You don't speak English? Does anybody here speak?" You in France, yo, learn French. Like, what are you talking? Germany, will anybody here speak English? It's an arrogance that Americans walk around with all over the world. And a lot of times hip-hoppers, all of us, we correct that when we in the world. People come to us and say, "Oh, my English is not that good." No, we in Spain right now. Tell me how to say thank you in Spanish. Like, this is where we at. And so many times we gotta, and people respect it. Because they don't know how to deal with the American tourists like that. You know, so when hip hop comes and say, "Nah, man, be you. How do I speak your language?" People loosen right up. Be like, "Yo, bro, this is what you said." Da, 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 da. That American arrogance, that's another point. But here we are here. A street culture originally among urban teens, which combines rap music, graffiti art, and breakdancing with distinctive codes of dress and speech. More specifically, the dance music of this subculture. That word sub is also kind of derogatory to us. Which features rap frequently on political themes. Notice that. This is what we look like to them. You know rap ain't on no political themes. That's like one or two of us in that industry, okay? But they say, which features rap, this is hip hop to them, okay? Frequently on political themes. And when I was talking to one of the scholars about this, they were saying to me that the way in which rappers look to British scholars is that anything that we say is politically based because of our condition in the United States. So even when you out there going, "Bitch, ho, I got the car, bitch, you better get in here." Another country says, "Wait a minute, those are free black people." Haiti, the Bahamas, they looking at us like they don't see all that degradation of our culture and our ancestry. They don't see all that. You come on there with the ice on and it's just bling and da da da. They think, "Damn, I can make it too." We the ones, we criticize each other. The world don't criticize hip hop. The world knows exactly who we are. Okay. Belonging to hip hop culture or its music. Let's move through this real quick. This is a big read. I want you to see this. Formed by combining the adjective hip in its slang sense, cool, with the noun hop, which also had a well-established slang sense, dance. Hip hop had existed as an adverb, meaning with hopping movements, since the 17th century. But hip hop as a noun was quite a separate development. Its adoption as the name of the subculture and its music may have been influenced by the catchphrase hip-hop bebop, chanted by disc jockey and rapper Lovebug Starsky in the form to the hip hop, don't stop that body rock. Now, look at this part here, hip hop, don't stop that body rock. Do you see how stale that becomes? Do you see how sterile that becomes? Now, Lovebug Starsky, rest in peace. Lovebug Starsky, this is my friend. This is a good friend of mine, Lovebug Starsky. Crazy dude. As a matter of fact, The last time I saw Lovebug Starsky, it was in Las Vegas. I asked him to come and be part of my show. He came, he lived in Vegas. He was a DJ in Vegas. We in Vegas. He says, he texts Simone. He says, if I die tonight, I die a happy man because I performed with KRS-One. We got the text. This is after the performance. 2 weeks later, he's dead. We was the last show for Lovebug Starsky. I asked him, how'd you come up with the term hip hop? He had no answer. Let me say that one more time. He had no answer. He said, it just came to me. It's just something we would say. This is how he was saying. It's just something we would say. It was something we said. I don't know. Then he said, well, I'm going to save the real answer for my video, for my documentary. I was like, yo, dude, you know. Then he passes. 2 weeks later, no documentary. We got to go get a medium now. Okay, so it's like, we got to figure this out. So at the end of the day, I want to point you to Lovebug Starsky. Don't stop that body rock. But that's the only way you're going to get it in history. This is what history does. Hip hop originated among young blacks and Hispanics in New York, Latinos back again, in the late 70s, but it and the term were first widely popularized in early 80s. In the US, the name was used to refer to the assertive and showy culture as a whole, with its visible and flamboyant street manifestations and its related dress and hairstyles. Breakdancing and crews of graffiti artists leaving their tag signatures are typical parts of the hip-hop scene. The word was first imported to Britain, remember these are British scholars, to refer specifically to the music when it became popular in the clubs in the mid-'80s. See, that's when they get hip-hop. Mid-'80s. Through the dress and general culture have also since taken root amongst British urban blacks. Its popularity as a dance music has led to the development of the verb hip-hop and the action noun hip-hopping. Someone who listens or dances to the music or follows the hip-hop culture is generally, in general, is a hip-hopper. Adherents may consider themselves or be described as part of the hip-hop community or hip-hop nation. The shorter version, hip-hop. Wait a minute, we just saw that. Oh, right, I'm bringing you back here because I want to take you up here to hip, to start looking at hip. Matter of fact, make a person hip, inform, tell. This is the part. When we went from hop to hip, our consciousness changed too. Literally means literature, literally. Okay, literally, this is what we're dealing with. We're dealing with letters, literature, okay? Literally, when we started out as just a name, hip hop, it was to skip and to jump or to dance. When we came into consciousness, meaning that we formed up as a specific thing in the world, the top hip became more relevant to us. Hip, make a person hip, inform, tell a person. Here's an African-American chart, or really African to American word chart. This is in an old Webster's dictionary I pulled it out of. Look at the difference in words, African words. These are original African words. Yorkay is okay. We thought okay is American, English. No, it's not. Africans have been speaking the word okay for thousands of years. Go back to what I was telling you about the word hip hop is not an English word. The word and the symbols used in it, English is trying to make its culture go through that. The original word is hippie under the Yorkay. Hippie, hip. What is it? Aware. Ancient African, this was the word for awareness, was hip. This is thousands, we're talking years now. Thousands of years. Africans are saying hippie. And actually they're combining it with the word hippie-cot, which is the word just under that. It's not cat, it's cot. We say, they robbed us of our religion, our God, our language. And in one breath, you're right. At one level of history, you're right. But at a deeper level of history, you created language itself. Nobody could ever rob you. These symbols are not theirs, they're yours. We should tell our kids to study language not so that they can speak well, but because it's theirs. Think of the difference. This is yours. It don't matter whether you want to study mathematics or not. Mathematics is yours. You came up with that. Your ancestry came up with these concepts. But no, now we're told, well, you got to study this so you can get a job. And so they give you this rudiment, this elementary form of brain, just crazy. And we're not even really getting knowledge, we're getting assimilated. That's why this is important for you to understand. Look at the African word. Yoke, okay, all right. Hippie, hip, aware, cot, person. Goy, you can get the rest of it. Here's hip. The History by John Leland. John Leland is a very famous and competent journalist, was documenting hip hop from the early days. He has one of the only interviews with me and Scott LaRock for Spin Magazine, this dude John Leland. He wrote this book called Hip, The History. Clarence Major, in his study Juba to Jive, a dictionary of African American slang, traces the origin of hip to the Wolof verb hepi, to see, or hippie, to open one's eyes, and dates its usage in America to the 1700s. So from the linguistic start, hip is a term of enlightenment, cultivated by slaves from the West African nations of Senegal and coastal Gambia. Now, what does the so-called slaves from West African nations, Senegal, and God know about enlightenment? And got a word for it. Which means there's other Africans walking around like this. We done seen this already. What's the word? Hip? You hip? Means you're aware, you're awake. One whose eyes are open. That's what it means to be hip. In fact, that's what the Buddha is called. The awakened one. The one whose eyes are open. That's what hip means from the very beginning. Here's Africa. Let me do this. Right. This is coastal Gambia. Here. Senegal's up there, Gambia is there. Coastal Gambia. That's where our ancestors are supposed to come from. That's where they were taking Africans from, to come here to America, the Caribbean, South America, Britain, and so on. They were coming from that region, right here. And of course it was down here, but this is the Ivory Coast, Gold Coast. They down there doing other thievery and robbery down here. But for people, it's right here. Okay, right here. Now, there's a word. Now look at this. The word they're speaking in Africa for centuries is hip, meaning aware and one whose eyes are open. These same Africans get on a ship and come to America. No contact with their children. Remember, we got sold off into slavery. Families broken up. Nobody knows their history. Suddenly, in about 76, we start saying hip hop, bebop, hip hop. Nobody telling us nothing. We didn't read this nowhere. Just, look, Buck Starsky, how did you come up with hip hop? It's just something, I don't know, it's just something we used to say. Just something we used to say. He read no book. I'm dissing my man right now. No, Buck Starsky is not doing the etymology on the words coming out of his mouth. He's just talking. And he's talking the spirit of his ancestors. Don't even know it. Don't even know it. Your ancestors used the same word, which is now the lead word of your culture. We didn't come up with no other term. We said hip hop. How we come up with it? I don't know. What? And it wouldn't matter if you said it's hip hop and you say, okay, well, how you come up with it? I don't know. It was just something we said. And that would be enough if our ancestors didn't say it first. What did our ancestors say to us as we as children were being taken from them? They weren't just crying. They weren't just crying. Our sisters are strong. These chicks were not just, you gonna take my kid. No, they gave those kids something. And it was this awareness. And look at the word that's coming across, hip. If I got one thing to say to you across generations and across centuries, what would it be? Be aware. Here's hip, just a little more etymology on hip before we go forward. Now look, I'm giving you the whole thing. Look at the top, hip, origin, unknown. That's what I wanted to show you. How is hip's origin unknown and we just showed you it was known? Yeah, this Oxford English is a trip. Look at this, origin, unknown. No, we know exactly. You even have hep, cot, hipness, the condition or quality of being hip. Now let's go in here. We're gonna go in here, okay? Okay, now look at this. Look at the top, we're in that, I'm in the middle of this piece, I'm in the middle. Look at the year, 1938 Callaway up there, right? Here we are, 1938 Callaway, I'm just blowing it up, right? Hip, wise, sophisticated, anyone with boots on, slang language, now that's slang. In the Oxford English as etymology. They tell you, don't talk that slang. But the minute you speak it, they record it and put it in a dictionary. Look, their hipness bubbled up. This is all the ways in which hip is being used over the years. Bubbled up out of their brute scramble for sweat and living. 51, San Diego Tribune. This is the one. We did it because we thought it was hip or smart. This is the comparisons of hip. What does hip mean? Smart. What does hip mean? Aware. What does hip mean? Enlightened. Bryant, Jive. The correct word is hip. It comes from a story of a fisherman warning young fishermen never to wade in deep water without hip boots on because they could run into trouble. Don't laugh. Because it is funny, isn't it? When you are the culture itself, this stuff is crazy, okay? So when you hear the words, I'm hip or I'm booted, it's said to let you know that they have no fear or trouble or that they understand what's shaking. Look at all this slang. What's shaking? This is the Oxford English Dictionary. What's shaking? And they have to put here, i.e. happening. Like, look at this. This is scholarship. Take a look at it. Okay, this is how they're really doing us and doing our culture and having us think that we're less and something else than what we really are. And you can see they telling us one thing, then running back into a book and writing up stuff like, oh, they this, they that, they here, they over there, and you don't even know. They writing it. They say, look, if you ever want to hide knowledge, put it in a book. So here we are. And so here's hop. This will be quick. To spring a short way upon the ground or any surface with an elastic or bounding movement or succession of such movements, set of persons, animals, and things. Formerly a general synonym of leap, now implying a short or dignified leap, perhaps associated with B, which is another definition, but it all means leap. What is a hop? A jump, a leap, springing forward, moving with leap. So what does hip hop mean to us? Hip, awareness, consciousness, intelligence. Hop, springing up, leaping forward, jumping up. Hip hop, consciousness, hip, leaping up, hop. This is the meaning of our culture. Hip hop, intelligence, hip, moving, hop. What more are we than intelligence moving? Consciousness springing up, aware beings on the move. Before any other title or name, as human beings, are we not? Intelligence, consciousness, moving, springing, leaping forward. This is literally a hip hop, or a movement aware of itself. As a member of this kind of culture, the question then becomes, am I hip to my hop? Do I know why I move? Or am I just moving without purpose, without fulfillment, without conclusion? Moving because of fear, moving because someone told you to move. The very name hip hop, when properly understood, moves us to be conscious of our activities in daily life. To ask, why are we doing whatever we are doing? That's what hip hop means. Hip hop, to be aware of your movements. Why are we doing whatever we are doing? Are we moving of our own will, or are we being lured, tempted, and steered toward the will of others? This is the first question that hip hop asks culturally. Are you thinking for yourself? Are you in control of your own thoughts and your own movements? Do you stand firm? Again, are you hip to your hop? Do you know why you exist? Do you realize that you are always your own answer? Remember, no one gave us the answers to the problems facing the Bronx in the 1970s. We simply became the answers we needed. Did you hear that? We became the answer. We became the people we needed to become in order to escape the poverty we were born into. We didn't change our environment, we changed how we looked at ourselves in the environment. For us, this was the beginning of an attitude that would eventually become hip hop. That was the attitude. The Bronx is burning, people are running around, it's this and that. There's no opportunities, but guess what? We're not going to try to change the environment. We're going to change our perception of the environment. We're going to change what we think about the environment. So now the trains became canvases to write on. Garbage cans became drums. Broken mops and broomsticks became drumsticks. And all type of caracas and every other thing, percussion instruments. We rethought the environment. Look at this. When we rethought our own environment, the environment responded to us according to what we thought about it. We were running around thinking that we was trapped in the environment. Yo, you ain't gonna get nowhere, you live in the Bronx. We said, no, I'm gonna live, he said, no, I'm not gonna get anywhere. I am from the Bronx. Like, look at you ain't gonna get nowhere, you from the Bronx. I ain't gonna get nowhere, I'm from the Bronx. Same words, different attitudes. Today we are talking about hip hop and the concept of history as it pertains to hip hop. Here we are exploring the deeper natures of both hip hop and history in an effort to write an empowering hip hop history of our own. We went through hip hop. Now let's talk about history in 15, 20 minutes. This is an intense subject, so I'm gonna run through it quickly because the way I designed this is to only touch the top parts of what history is, but it's gonna make you think deeper. So everything that's being said here, what's not being said here, you may actually think it up yourself. Here's the compact edition of the Oxford. So we're dealing with history. First thing you gotta realize is that history, the concept of history, is always dictated to by the ruling class. What we are calling history is only the opinions of those that colonized, invaded, and robbed your parents. Period. And that's real talk. I'm not exaggerating. This is what history is. It is the record of the imperialists. The only true history you have is your diary. Your journal is your history. The idea of adopting national histories as your history is a psychological disorder. Hook yourself off the matrix and write your own history. When you leave here today, write your history. Go to Barnes & Noble and get one of them books, one of them blank books, a journal, and start writing from today. That's gonna be your children's heritage. That's the only letter, that's all they got. So imagine if you don't write. So here's store. What is history? Let's break this down. First, let's start with a store. These are the words that are in the word history. That with which a household, camp, etc. is stored. Food, clothing, other necessities collected for future use. That's what store is. Something collected for future use. Here's a story on the bottom here. A narrative, true or presumed to be true. Did you hear that? A narrative, true or presumed to be true, relating to important events and celebrated persons of a more or less remote past. A historical relation or anecdote. Now, I want to show you something here. These are codes. That's obsolete, and that's the same code as that. When you see the cross there, that means these definitions are obsolete. They don't use these definitions anymore. But the reason we still look at them is because when you're dealing with the history of the word, it doesn't matter whether you're using the word this way or not. What is the history of the word? So even though we don't use, or they trying to say they don't use story like this anymore, it's still in the dictionary as a useful piece of information. So this is obsolete. This is the original story. The reason I'm giving you that is because that's what we're dealing with. With metaphysics, you're dealing with first causes. The reason we're approaching history philosophically is so that we can get to the cause, essence, being, existence. Those words is what we use to look at the subjects that we study. So I'm showing you here what a story originally was. Most of these words as well. Storyteller at the top. Look at the top. One who is accustomed to tell stories or anecdotes in conversation. Now look at the second one. Euphemistically, what? A liar. Wait a minute. And look at the word euphemistically. A euphemism is like a word you use in place of another word. So it's like the same word, but I didn't want to say that word. I'm gonna say it this way. So a storyteller is euphemistic, and there's no cross next to that either. It's not obsolete, none of that. Okay, euphemistically, a liar. This is in the Oxford English Dictionary. I told you, this book is a trip. Storyteller, the original definition of a storyteller could be a liar. Third, one whose business it is to recite legendary or romantic stories. And they're telling you stories are not true. I tell you, stories are not true. They're based on lies and made up stuff and whatever. But the reason you look at this right here is because when you look at history today, it's resting on all of this. We're going to the actual center, the root of what history actually is, so that we could be better writers of history. So this is a storyteller, okay? Doesn't have to be true. A story does not have to be true. Here's history. Now, notice, I'm giving you the original history. Obsolete, but this is where history starts. A relation of incidents, look at it, in early use either true or imaginary. This is the original of history. True or imaginary. Later, only those professedly true. A narrative, tale, story. What is history? Story. Does it have to be true? Well, let's presume it could be imaginary, liar. Okay? Here's historian, a writer or author of history, especially one who produces a work of history in the higher sense. Like we're trying to tell the truth now. As distinguished from the simple analysis or chronicler of events, or from the mere compiler of a historical narrative. And also, take a look at the Oxford. You see all that etymology? They give you the history. Every time they give you a word, they give you the history of the word as well. Looking at the actual word history, we first come to the prefix high, which is also a parallel form to hey. It is an exclamation used to call attention. A story, on the other hand, is a narrative, true or presumed to be true, relating to important events and celebrated persons of a more or less remote past. That's a quotation from what we just saw. As we can see here, a story is simply a narrative, a tale, an account of an event, whether that event is true or made up. And high is simply a calling to that story. So again, what is history? Etymologically speaking, the word itself points to being called to a story. It is not the story itself. A high story seems to be about calling you to a story or narrative, not actually telling you a story or narrative. The word high story is a calling. It has nothing to do with the recording of the past. Some might say, Chris, this is crazy. How can that be? Let's look at this word here, hist. This is the other way you could look at history. The other way, the first part is high story. Now look at hist and ori. Here's the hiss. Hiss means a sibilant exclamation used to enjoin silence or call on people to listen. 2, a similar sound made to urge on a dog or other animal. Hiss the boy, an exclamation used to incite or urge on. Hiss, hiss, hiss the boy. That's the definition still in use. Here's the obsolete version of hiss. To summon with exclamation, hiss, hiss. To summon in silence without noise. Psst, psst, hiss, psst. That's what a hiss is. Now, here's histo. Here's all the ways you can look at hiss. I'll just put them up there so you can see it. Hiss, look, or hiss, body tissue, histo, web. That's what hiss also, or histo means. In that sense, this is just there. We're looking at the American Heritage Dictionary. What I want you to see is the bottom. You see ori, of, relating to, or characterized by. Ori is a suffix. It by itself only pertains to the word that it's at the back of. What is Ori? A place or thing used for or connected with. So Ori, they give you example, crematory relates to the cremation. Here's hist, to summon with exclamation, hist, to summon in silence or without noise. Here's Ori. Of, relating to, or characterized by, like advisory. A place or thing used for or connection with, crematory. Just as the Ori in advisory relates to advising, and the Ori in crematory relates to or is characterized by or connected with cremation or a crematory, so is it with the word hist-ori. The Ori in history relates to histing, which is a silent calling, not the recording of the past or the telling of a story. So again, what is history? As a word, history is a calling technique. This is the other. We looked at high story. High story is calling you to the story. It's not the story. You was never told the story. You was only called to it. Then we look at the other part, hist, another calling. Calling you to a story that you never get. On top of that, where does the story, if someone says this is your history, that means they calling you to something. African American history starts with 1619 Jamestown, Virginia. So what are they calling us to? If your history starts with slavery, if your hist-ori, if first of all, they're not even calling you to slavery, they're calling you a slave. They're histing you to a place that they say is your history. And when you look at what they say the history is, it's your enslavement. Make it even worse. Because a slave at least know I got to get free. Eventually I'm gonna kill these people, I'm getting out of here, okay? At least a slave could tug against the chains. White folk? Where's your history? What are you being called to? Slave owner, terrorist, rapist. That's what we teaching young white kids? What about the abolitionists in America? You know there were more white abolitionists in the United States than slave owners? Slave owners, first of all, you had to be rich to own slaves. 90% of white people in America were slaves. This idea of indentured servant, that's an illusion. White folk were slaves in this country before black folk. The Irish had it bad here. First they had it bad in England or Ireland with the English. Then they come over here. Matter of fact, they don't even come over here. They get locked up in Britain and shipped over here, okay? 100,000 Irish men, women, and children, slaves in America for the Virginia Company. 100,000. They used to take young white kids off the street of England and sell them into slavery. 1618. Not 16, a year before the first 20 Africans supposed to be. Well, 1618, young white kids were running around Virginia. No parents, no nothing. You pick them up and work them to death. Child labor laws didn't come into the 20th century. White kids, young. White girls, young. Slaves. Beaten, abused, raped, robbed. Where's their history? What about the history of Eastern Europeans? the Slavs, who we supposed to be named after. Where's their history? The Vikings used to grab Eastern Europeans and sell them to Africans. You know how long that trip is? You think we died along the way? We don't even know the number. The Turkish Empire took millions of white people as slaves. Millions. Turned them into Muslims to fight in the war, an army. Where's their history, though? Millions of white people fought against slavery. Where's their history? Why are we learning at the pace of racists? Why are we learning at the pace of terrorists? Why are we learning at the pace of sexists? We're learning at their pace. This is why we can't move faster than them. When we learn for ourselves, we move faster than any of these oppressive systems. That's what hip hop taught us. We're independent. That's what hip hop taught us. Don't go into their system, create your own. Don't fight against somebody else's system, create another system that makes that system obsolete. We ain't gotta fight. You ain't gotta fight when you the truth. All you gotta do is stand on truth. While most people consider history to be the study of the past, upon closer observation, we find that it is our present that is creating our past. That not only are our actions today creating the histories we shall live tomorrow, but new information in the present changes what we perceive of our past. Yes, the past is a perception, and new words, new pictures, and new artifacts in the present changes what we perceive of our past. Thus, the actual past changes. Historians only record into their historical writings what they deem noteworthy or important to record. In addition, a historian can only record that part of the past that is also in that historian's present. If an event, person, or place of the past vanishes with no reference in that historian's present, then that historian will not be able to see such an event, person, or place in the past. It is gone forever. And you should remember this. If a historian don't have whatever is in the past has to also be in your present, or you don't have a reference for it. If whatever's in the past, if you ain't got a reference for it in the present, you don't see it. Again, historians only record what they deem noteworthy or important to record. Everything else simply gets left out of their story. Even hip hop, as popular as it is still not accurately documented in many of these year-end magazines, century-ending encyclopedias, and dictionaries. Take a look at the listing for hip hop in the timetable of African American history. Here's the book here. Here's what they have. This is in the book, okay? The top here is 1981. It says education, blank. Look, I can't see. Arts, blank. Sports, blank. Nothing happened, nothing. Look, this is a book. And I'm giving you the popular books, the ones that scholars refer to. That's why you're looking at this one. Take a look here, this is another page. We pop up right here. Matter of fact, hold on, let me give you this. Okay, that's where we at. I blew it up. Look at the bottom. This is when hip hop appears in the book. Okay, in '79, they did get the year right. The Sugar Hill Gang's Rapper's Delight, the first rap record with national airplay, is released. The single marks the beginning of a new musical genre that will grow into a national phenomenon over the next decade. That's it. Here's Ori again. I want to bring you back. This is where I got Ori from. I'm going to show you how these line up. This is Chief Osceola. Chief Osceola, a great man too, by the way. But look at the picture. I'm just going to show you about history and photos. So just take a look at the picture. That's Chief Osceola, Native American, doing his thing. Now, Black Indians by William Loren Katz. What is he saying? By the way, them two dudes is brothers. That's why they're on the cover of the book. Okay. Anyway, this was written in the book. It is not that U.S. chroniclers of the past have failed to see a Black Indian heritage through the eyes of non-whites, for that is understandable. Almost all were white. What is unforgivable is that some have insisted on seeing past events through the eyes of a slave-holding and Indian-killing class that has been dead for a century or more. That's the whole problem. It's who's telling us the history. But omission, not distortion, is the far more serious culprit in hiding the story of the Black Indians of the Americas. Observers, not expecting to find Africans among Indians, did not report their presence. For example, artist George Catlin painted a magnificent portrait of Chief Osceola, who you just saw, when he and other Seminoles were held captive at Fort Moultrie in 1837. That's where that portrait came from. Catlin never painted or mentioned that Osceola's personal bodyguard of 55 warriors included 52 Black Seminoles. Had his artistry captured their presence, he would have contributed vastly to our understanding of anthropology and history. They just was not in the picture. All you get is Osceola. And innocently, you just look at Osceola. It's just a picture of a Native American in a dictionary. Nope, they lying to you right there. Dude walked around with 52 Black, big lip, big nose, afros, dark-skinned Negroes. He's walking with them, and 52 of them. They're just not in the history. We didn't think it was important. It is not the U.S. Oh, and look, wait a minute. This is the same thing I read. I just want to show you to my dude again. Right, that's what that is. 1838 portrait by George Catlin. That's what it is. Behind that photo is an entire African history we know nothing about. The history of the Seminoles alone is part of African American history we know nothing about. We don't celebrate it. We don't know it. We don't know nothing. We go to Florida. We go to Disneyland. That's it. How many other events, people, places, and civilizations have been simply left out of the history that we perceive as our own? As we can see, history is not fact or truth. It is the opinion of the historian. The illusion is that we all have individual histories. The truth is that all human activity in the earth is one event, one omni-event. This is philosophy now. We're looking at the truth. We're looking past appearances, and we're looking right at reality. What's the real reality? There is no history. There's one event going on this earth right now. Right now, while we in this room, there's a dude next door doing something. People in this building up here doing something. People in China moving. People in India moving. Africa's moving. Native Americans, everybody's moving. Everybody's doing everything. Right now, as I speak to you, the whole world is happening. Everything is going on at once, and we are all part of this omni-event. Right now, as I speak to you, there are so many things going on at this very moment just to make this event possible, to which if I attempted to write about this event tonight, I would be forced to cut off 90% of what is actually going on right now. Imagine that. Just so that I can explain my portion of what is going on right now. And even my accurate and truthful explanation as to what is going on right now would still not actually be what is going on right now. It would only be my opinion, my view, my observation of the omni event. And so, in order to have a history of anything or anyone, historians carve out sections of this continuous global human activity so that one part or piece of time can be discussed. The historian cuts off all of the influences that cause such an event to occur, as well as cut off all of the influence that shall continue after the event, so that one piece of time can be discussed. This is what makes all history simply the story or the view of the historian. This is all history is. No historical documentation will ever capture precisely the event or person or thing that it is speaking of. Something and or someone is always going to be left out because the true nature of human activity in the earth cannot even be comprehended in such ways. It takes a different sight altogether to see and then comprehend an omni-event with an omni-history. This, however, is what it will take to see and comprehend hip-hop's true history, or rather hip-hop's true record. Now, this is where we start to talk about the way in which to see omni-history. You don't see omni-history based on these colonial concepts, meaning, I'm black, so I'm supposed to come from Africa. I'm African American, so I'm supposed to come from America. And so on. This is how history is being categorized or told to us. That based on physical things, this is where you derive your history from. A physical landmass, some sort of body, bloodline even, a physical body something, DNA, all of that, biology. This is where we're getting history from. But in order to see an omni-history, you can't look at physical things. You have to look for character, interests, traits. Your talents have a history. History is not just writing. History don't come like this. There's history recorded in dance. Certain tribes in Africa put their history on their face. New Zealand, actually, the Maori people of New Zealand write their history on their face. You can walk up to them and look at them. They play their whole history on their face. Tattooing is another form of history. Right on your body, whole history. A loved one left right there. Some idea, parent, something, history. When you realize what your being is, if you are a physical human being, then your history is going to be physical. But if you are a spirit, consciousness moving, intelligence springing up, if that's your essence, then you don't look for your face in history. You look for your interests. You look for your character. What are we? Character. You can't say just because somebody has dark skin that they black. You can't say somebody with lighter skin is white in character. And not that white would be evil and black good, or black evil and white good. But character. Character. Dr. King talked about it. The content of your character. Well, your character has a history. And the history of your character is more accurate than the history of your body. If you ever want to know what your ancestors were really like, be them. How do you be your ancestors? Continue their work. When you continue the work of your ancestors, you learn more about them. Kwame Ture is my direct teacher, Stokely Carmichael. He's passed on now. But when he was alive, we toured around and we did lectures and concerts and all types of stuff. It was for my album Edutainment. Back then when I did Edutainment, I was running around with Stokely Carmichael, or at this time, Kwame Ture. And He used to tell me all types of stuff about the civil rights movement. It's the same like this. Like, you know, you watch Eyes on the Prize and then you talk to Stokely Carmichael. It's like, nah, wait a minute. Something's happening here, okay? It's like, it's not that it's not true. It's just that you're talking to the actual history itself. And they have ways to say things and the way to do things and the way they talk about people. It's not always just, we gotta get free. And if we don't get free, we gonna, a clip on some documentary, you see Stokely Carmichael going, black power, then it cuts clip. You don't see after he said that, black power, black, he said, yo, let's go get a pizza now. Damn, my mouth hurt. We don't humanize these people, because we're being told our history by colonists. In the old paradigm, your personal identification in history is materially based. This is what we was just talking about. It is based upon race and the documentation of your race in certain geographical locations on the physical earth. And there is nothing wrong with this approach. It is just limited to physical things in time and space. However, when you seek to document a non-physical event like hip-hop, the rules change dramatically. To identify and then document hip-hop in time and space, you must realize that you are documenting an idea, not a person, nor even an event in nature. Hip-hop is a shared idea. The true hip-hop historian must undergo a slight consciousness change from identifying himself, herself, with certain people in history to identifying himself, herself, with certain ideas in history. In actuality, hip-hop is a global idea happening in the world at once. It exists in many different places and at many different times amongst all the peoples of the world at once. Hip hop is super historical. Super historical means a history that can be found in anyone's history or a history that affects all other histories. Here we shall be focusing upon the first definition, a history that can be found in anyone's history. This is hip hop's history. It's not so much about writing about Kool Herc or Bam or Flash or this is a part of hip hop's history. It's material history. But if we talk about hip hop, the awareness moving, breaking MC and graffiti art DJing, these things have always been in the world. So our history now is not a linear history that goes 73, 74, 75, like that. Our history is boom. Now, where are you in the boom? You're all of it. The history of plants is my history. The history of fish is my history. The history of apes and chimpanzees. And I mention this from a paleoanthropological point of view. If my evolution has something to do with bacteria, fish, rats, apes, or monkeys, then apes, chimpanzees, if you go with that model, then all of that's my history. The history of every ape is my history. The history of every rat, it's my history. In fact, that's my brother, sister. What I'm trying to say here is that hip-hop is super historical. It's not a linear thing, 73, 74, 75, 76. Hip-hop is in the world at once. It's human activity in the world at once. So the way in which you see that or document that is by documenting the interest, the way the traits of the character. So you could see your history in ancient China. You can see your history in 16th century Angola. You can see your history with anyone or anything or any time or any event that acted like you, that shared your traits, that matched your character. This was the original way to look at history. When somebody walked up on you and wanted to know who you were, they first listened to how you spoke. Your language was your history. I'll say it again. The way you spoke told somebody all about you. Oh, you from over there. And I know the history of over there. Now what we're dealing with is, or should I say this, speaking. When you speak, your culture comes like that, so on. Okay, you speak, that's the first layer. Second layer. What's your skills? What do you do? Well, I'm a chef. I cook. I'm a chef. I cook. Oh, well, you Persian. I'm African. Who cares? We both cook. Race don't matter. It doesn't matter. This is not part of this. You a chef? I'm a chef. Let's sit down and discuss how we're going to do this chicken right now. I don't need your race. I don't need your gender. I don't need your class. I don't need nothing. Okay, you a chef? I'm a chef. You rich. You got a major restaurant going. Me, I got a food truck. I'm trying to make it pop. But we both love cooking. We can meet somewhere right here at SOB's. You own Red Lobster. I got one truck, but we both love to cook. So we can meet on cooking. This is how the whole world used to link up. Nobody was even thinking about, you're a lighter complexion, you're a darker complexion, your hair is different, my hair is... Nobody was even thinking about this. It was, yo, what you do? I make chips. You make chips? I make chips. I just came from this place they're gonna call America. Word? Yeah. I just sailed across the thing. Yo, you do that? Yeah, I do that. But you're European, you're Greek, you're Roman, and you happen to be Phoenician. You built, I don't care about this whiteness, this black. You know how to build ships? Yeah, I know how to build ships. I love building ships. You like building ships? I love building ships. Yo, let's get together and build this ship. Hip hop brought all that back. We said we don't care if you white, black, rich, poor, gender, don't care about none of that. Start breaking. Sit. I don't want to hear nothing. I don't want to hear about your whiteness, your blackness, your Asian, whatever. Start emceeing. Let me see your graph book. That's going to tell me everything about you. Show me your photos of you in the train yards doing your thing. That's going to tell me everything I need to know. Spit your rhyme right now. Let me hear it. That's going to tell me everything. Everything right there on that rhyme. Yo, there's some turntables over here. Let me see what you can do with them. This is hip hop. This is hip hop. We outside of all this nonsense. And that's why we're successful. And that's my last point. I'm not going to be able to get through all of this. I'm breezing through. As we have learned, history is a word, is a method. Documenting the past just does not go far enough when it comes to actual documentation of hip-hop. For us, a better word might be record. I'm not going to do you right now, but I'm going to show it to you. Record. This is a better word than history is record. It's fact-based. Record is fact-based. What you want is a record. And as a word, record is record, lineage. This is what we really want. The proof, the evidence, the reliable testimonies, the eyewitnesses, the facts regarding our past. We want knowledge of our past that actually connects us to our origins. This requires record, not necessarily history, but record. I'm going through. You can take pictures. You can speed read. What are you connected to? This determines what your real history is. What is hip-hop actually connected to? This will determine what hip-hop's real history is. This is the importance. As hip-hop's historians writing hip-hop's history, we have to determine what hip-hop is connected to. And the idea is determine. We have to come to an agreement. So in summary, hip-hop's actual history has not even been written yet. Did you hear that? Hip-hop's history hasn't even been written yet. In some ways, hip hop itself is just beginning at its 50th year. It's like it took 50 years for hip hop to fully realize itself. And now that we have seen ourselves, experienced ourselves, and can now think critically about ourselves, only now can we say that we are hip to our hop regarding hip hop. That we now know why we move, and we move deliberately. It is at this stage of our cultural development that we are even able to review some kind of record in an effort to produce a history for ourselves. It's been 50 years. That's the record. Now we can have a history. Everybody else who tried to write a hip hop history within those 50 years are going to come short now. They're good. We're going to refer to them. There's some really good books. But no, it's not the real history. It's your opinion of rap music. You didn't write hip hop's history yet. The question now is, what kind of story do we want our children to live? Not know, because every action you do today in the present is going to be their history. What story do you want your children to live? This will require an agreement as to what our hip-hop story will be. So this is it. So as far as history is concerned, the real question is, what is our message to the future? What do we want our future to know? Like, think about, what do you want your future to know? Hip-hop 100 years from now, what do we want them to know about this event right here? Every one of our actions, as well as inactions, will create the history our children and our older selves shall live and reflect back upon for identity, heritage, and culture tomorrow. Try to remember, your present actions create the memories, history, that you shall live tomorrow. So as far as our history is concerned, let us give ourselves and our children good memories with our present actions. Let us at least agree that we are hip-hop. Thanks for listening, y'all. Thank you. Of course, this type of teaching could have went on for hours, but this is where our Temple of Hip Hop comes in. It is here at the Temple of Hip Hop, located at 55 Ludlow Street in Newark, New Jersey, that we lay out not only a longer and more informative study regarding hip hop, but we also offer ancient and modern philosophy with an aim toward cultivating one's spiritual nature. If this is something you might be interested in from a hip hop perspective, you can check us out at thetempleofhiphop.org.